Omara.Portuondo.
Yo nací en un bohío de la campiña lejana y la música cubana es la que quiero yo cantar. Nadie me puede arrancar del suelo donde nací.
Era una mulata muy linda, con una voz increíble, con una tesitura impresionante. Empezó a caminar por esa vía y a tumbar muros.
She has that Billie Holiday-esque quality, that her voice has that vulnerability, it has that nakedness, and I think, man, you can't help but feel it.
Omara canta todos los estilos, pero a mí me gusta mucho cuando ella canta los bolerones y le pone así esa que se desgarra cantando. Me encanta.
Y yo me siento un privilegiado del poder estar a su lado. Cuando estás con Omara, aprendes y no te deja de sorprender.
Por eso yo soy cubana y me muero siendo cubana. Ya, con esa frasecita ya tú sabes.
Que es una de las más grandes cantantes de la historia de la música cubana. Esto lo sabe todo el mundo.
Quiero que sepan.
Wow, you've become the silver fox since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it was always kind of silver, but it
no, they used to call it salt and pepper, Hugo. Probably.
Back in the day, yeah. I recall that. I think they still do. Like George Clooney is salt and pepper, you know.
Really?
Anderson Cooper is silver. You know.
Yeah.
Depends on.
These are all the prematurely gray people. I'm sorry, silver, of course, salt and pepper. That's right. That was the more forgiving description of the hair, right?
You know, as it turns out, my white hair has come in at a time when it's very fashionable. So I'm, you know, I live in Bushwick and I'm in Williamsburg all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I see tons of people in their 20s that have silver hair. You know, I'm like, you know what? I didn't even have to pay for this. This is just
right. That is true. Right. No, I do. I guess I do know that people are doing that. It's the next thing is the metallic hair color. Well, good for you. You look good.
Thank you. Likewise.
Distinguished. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it came in my. Never mind. We'll move on to other topics.
Yeah, the facial hair is. Yeah, I don't let it go too far. Because
I'm close to shaving. Yeah. That's as far as we're going to go.
That's it. Hair. It can't get better.
No. I was trying to remember where we first met, and I think it was probably, I'm going to guess, it was probably at what they used to call Stranger Than Fiction.
I would guess that it was most likely Stranger Than Fiction, although it could have been at like the IFP market back when that was called the IFP market.
Right.
Or it could have been
at Lincoln Center then.
Yeah, it could have been, you know, also like Tribeca. I mean, there are like a few watering holes in town.
Right, and we would run into each other regularly.
Yeah, and I remember as soon as we met, then we'd see each other all the time.
True, yeah. It's like that thing where, you know, you probably run into somebody. It's a phenomenon, right? Where you probably run into some particular person many, many times. It's only once you have a connection and you've established the connection, and then they are on your radar. So when you run into them, it seems like you're starting to now. It's so weird. I just met you, and now I'm running into you. No, we probably ran into each other many times before.
Well, it's like you know Matt Cohen, right?
Oh, very well.
Yeah. So Matt is one of my best friends.
Another guy.
And we met probably, I don't know, around 2006, 2007 at I think we officially met at a photo opening that Richard Sandler did. You know Richard,
yeah. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. He lives right down this road from me, essentially.
So Richard I met in Philadelphia in 1999 at the Lost Film Festival, or I forget what it was. It was some weird, super cool underground festival. when he was working on Gods of Times, or he was screening Gods of Times Square.
Sure.
And then I met Matt at a photo opening he did, and man, I wish I'd bought some of his photos then.
I hope he does. Oh,
No, I mean, I don't think that they're actually that. Well, they're more expensive now, but not like crazy expensive.
Richard.
But anyway, so yeah, as soon as I met Matt, then we bumped into each other like all the time, and then it was clear that, and we have 500 mutual friends. And it's just like, oh yeah. And during the pandemic, he decamped to Vermont with Rachel.
Yes.
And I wound up staying in his apartment in Greenpoint. You know.
Oh, okay, all right. I was up at his Vermont place last summer.
Yeah,
Had
great place.
a really nice time up there. It's beautiful. And Matt's place, yeah. And Richard, I see he lives very close in Catskill, which is really close to where I am. It's about a 25 minute drive.
You know, I haven't seen him probably in at least, I don't know. I saw him in an opening he did at the Half King,
right,
like 8 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's.
But when he was in the East Village, I would see him pretty frequently, and
sure.
Love his work.
He's a social guy, actually. He does. I don't know. It's like such a big change for him. I'm sure people watching, you think I'd edit this out, right? But I don't. But you know, well, this way I know at least Richard and Matt will watch the video.
or you could choose to edit. You know,
I know, but I enjoy it.
Count down. You know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, this is the Patreon version. It's the expanded version. So, well, for whenever we met, and we obviously have a lot of connections. And I think at one point I was hooking you up with my friend who, because she spoke, right? You were looking for somebody who spoke Turkish? No, wait, what was it? What was the language?
Hungarian, maybe?
Hungarian? What was the language? Because you were working on something before I'm guessing, or concurrent to the Omara project. Didn't I hook you up with somebody? Ugandan, that's what it was. It was just, yeah. Anyway, I just have way too many. I never mind. I'm not going to go down that path. But anyway, Omara, brilliant documentary.
Thank you.
Well done, sir. Really, I think this will put you over the top.
Well, I had a good time. I had a good time. I mean, my family's from Cuba. I've been traveling there for 25 years.
Wow.
And you know, this opportunity came up to work on this film, and I, you know, had to think about it, you know, because I wasn't, I'd never thought of like doing a Buena Vista sequel, you know, or I didn't want to do something that was, so many people do Cuban music documentaries, and I was like, well, I don't know that, you know, I don't want to follow the mob. But then when this opportunity came up, and I just realized, wow, this is an amazing artist at a really interesting time in her life, and what an opportunity. Imagine if you you could have been with Edith Piaf or Ella Fitzgerald.
That's a good
you know,
point.
and they're in, you know, the last years of their lives. You know, how great would that have been? And with Omara, it's the same thing. I mean, she's that caliber of artist, and
everybody knows. Everybody in Cuba knows her.
In Cuba and Latin America and Europe.
Latin America in general. That's true. That's fair enough. Maybe in Miami.
West, she's not that well known.
Yeah. And she's in her now 10th decade of life.
She's 91, about to go on another world tour. And this one is officially the final world tour. You know, so she's starting off in Colombia in June. Yeah, end of June. And then I think she's going to Europe. She might be in the US at the beginning of next year. So yeah, you know, she's doing a whole like Mexican tour in November, like 10 dates.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, if she is, I mean, her legs are a problem, right? Or is it her back? Or does she, I mean, I know she can walk with assisted, but she has to sit while she performs, which, you know, I mean, for God's sake, if you're performing at 91, you can lay down. I don't care.
Well, you know, she, you know, she's 91. And so walking is a little hard for her. The amazing thing is that, so people walk around to the stage, they sit her down,
Yeah.
And then she starts to sing, and then she lights up, and then
Right.
she kills it for 2 hours.
She de-ages. And
Yeah, I've
as
been at
will happen.
shows, like everybody, all the guys she plays with are in their 30s. And at the end of a
Could see
2-hour
that.
show with her, they're wiped out. You know, they're like, we have no idea where she gets the energy. Because they're
Well, she's
wiped
developed
out.
the
And these are
muscle.
like, yeah.
They are 30 and she's developed the muscle for 70 years.
Yeah, I mean, she started when she was a teenager, so it's like over 7 decades of performing, which is
Right.
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. Tell me more about the origins of this, though. You said, were you approached? Is that what you said?
So
Or it sounded like an opportunity was there.
Yeah, so well, the opportunity came in a very organic way. I had met Omara and Ariel, her son, about 10 years ago now. I was consulting with PBS producers that wanted to do like a 3 tenors type concert in Havana, outdoor in the Cathedral Plaza. It was going to be gorgeous. You know, we had it all lined up. We had all the permissions, all the artists, everything. It's like turnkey. You know, we got back to the US. We, contacted PBS, and they're like, "No, it's too political for us. We can't do it."
What?
So I was like, gone. But because of that, because of that, I met Omara and her son, and we stayed in touch. And over the years, when I was down there, I'd see them. I'd come and visit her at her apartment. And then about 4 years ago, I was producing a project for a friend about Cuban baseball, or the relationship of the Negro Leagues to Cuban baseball in the 30s, 40s, 50s. And Omara's dad was one of the great baseball players in the 1920s. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool? Let's try and do a little interview with her. So I called up her son and said, "Hey, we're in town, and we'd like to interview Omara to talk about her dad." He said, "Well, you'll have to come tomorrow morning because she's going to get on a plane to Poland in the afternoon." And so we went there in the morning. We interviewed her. She got into a car and took off. Ariel and I sat in the kitchen, and just over an espresso, he said, "Hey, nobody's ever done a good film about my mom. And would you be interested? Do you want to do it? If you want to do it, I'll give you the access that you need. I'll be 100% behind whatever you want to do." And this is totally out of the blue. And the funny thing is, we're sitting in the kitchen, and it was like one Cuban son to another Cuban son, and he's like, "Can you make a film about my mom?" Right? Who just happens to be an icon.
It almost sounded like it was spontaneous request.
I think he thought about it. I mean, he hadn't thought about it a lot, but I think it was kind of spontaneous. I think he might have thought about it after I called him, like the night before. He might have thought, well, let me ask Hugo about this. And so I didn't say like yes right away. I had to think about it, because I wanted to think about, well, this is amazing, but what am I going to do? And that's when I started to think that to do a portrait of an artist, in starting, at the beginning of her 10th decade, with her history, could be really fascinating. And so the next morning I called him up and said, "You know what? I think I have like an idea for how to do this. So yeah, let's try it." And it's one of these things, some things are meant to be, because I had just met a guy named Richard Blackstone. He used to run BMG America. He was one of the big music companies, and he now had a new company, and he's a Cubophile, and we had been talking about doing something in Cuba. So I got back from that trip. I called him in the cab heading home from the airport, and I said, "Richard, I think I got the project we're going to do in Cuba together." And I went in. He loved it. He ran it by his production people, and ultimately it was that they're the ones that came on board and put up like the first half of the budget that got us through production. So it's one of these things that this doesn't happen usually. First of all, you never have you're never offered the rights to an icon, right? Those are things you chase down for years and that are hard to get. In this case, it was like, do you want to do it? And then secondly, it's very rare that you know the right person to call, or you have that person that's where the pump is primed for them to like jump on board.
Mhm.
And in this case, Richard loved Cuba, was in music, and this was just like a perfect match on all levels. And then
Synergy there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then months later, it took a few months for them to say yes. And then a few months after that, we were in Mexico City shooting for the first shoot, filming with Omara and Diego Sigala at that amazing concert that they did in Mexico City.
Oh yeah, that's the right. The younger, he was, well,
The gypsy,
he's not a young kid.
Yeah.
But he's another star.
Amazing. He's one of the greatest, I guess, gypsy singers in the world.
Okay. Their trading off was really moving, and there was a connectivity there that was pretty special, if my memory serves me correctly. But that seems to be a singular talent also with her, is she's so in the moment when she's performing. It's like I mean, we don't talk about the performance. I had on a singer-songwriter recently on the show, and he all he does is a major part of his whole thing is, and he teaches it. He doesn't teach guitar playing, he doesn't teach singing. What he teaches is the performance, and she's just this natural. You see it with her relationship with her audiences, and you see it with other musicians that she's playing with or singing with. So she's. I mean, again, decades of these muscles being.
Well, that's one of the things that makes her really remarkable, is just that she is so in the moment.
Right.
And I think as Arturo O'Farrill says in the film, one of the things is that, actually, I think we cut this part out, but it was in his interview. He says that one of the things that makes her remarkable is the way that she can, her phrasing or timing, she can slide it back and forth, and she never sings a song the same way twice. And every time, and she goes with the moment, how it feels in the moment. And if you listen to like 20 Años, like that song is in our film, I think 4 times, and every time it's a different version of it. In Tokyo, she does it twice back to back, once in the dressing room and then once on stage, and both are moving and both are different. So she's got this amazing ability to, within the structure,
yes,
slide back and forth. And the way Arturo was saying, he's like, sometimes she just lets it, you're waiting for her, and when it just seems like it's almost too late for that line to come in, she comes in with it, and it just knocks you out. I working with her, I mean, I appreciated her before, but then working with her and really watching her and seeing her perform so many times gave me such an appreciation of what she does, and why, especially anybody involved with music is inspired by her, because you watch her and it's like, holy shit, it's I guess like like impressionist paintings or abstract painters, that you look at the result and it's like, how did they do that?
Right. Yeah. How many hours did you end up with her? Let's say, I don't really remember her, and it could just be the nature of the film, but I don't really remember her talking directly to you. It was more like conversations she was having with others.
Yeah. So she doesn't like to be interviewed.
Okay, that's fair.
We did several interviews, and the interviews were kind of duds. Yeah, I mean, for and so that was one of my challenges. This is somebody who didn't like to be interviewed and who didn't like to directly tell you too much.
Yeah, she does. I will say, now that you mention it, she does seem. It's interesting. She does seem to be. I don't want to say private necessarily, but she's very cautious, and yet at the same time, you learn a lot about her. In this documentary, through the conversations, you learn what you need to learn, I guess.
Well, I think what you need to learn about her,
she lives and breathes music.
It's also in her interactions with people and how she interacts with people.
Right.
I think she reveals herself, and she reveals who she is.
Is there, and also, I mean, this is her life. She's been, as you said, since she was a teenager. She's 91. It's I don't, you know, Omar is a musician, a singer, and a song interpreter for probably as far back as her memory serves her, you know. So it's no wonder that there's, you know, I don't know that she's even being private about her life. I think you know, although I know there's things that come up. There was a husband, there was a difficult marriage, there was a breakup there. There's at least one child.
I have one child. I mean,
One
she's just
child. Okay.
she only
Okay.
had Ariel, the one son. Yeah,
There's
you
there's
know,
political upheavals in her country. I mean, there's got to be a lot of there has had to been quite a bit of turmoil, but she chooses not to dwell on it, is my guess.
yeah, you know, she reminds me a little bit of the way my grandmother was, and the way
Mhm.
certain
Women
Cuban
of a certain
women
generation.
or certain generations in Cuba, they were just brought up. I mean, it's almost like the greatest generation here in the U.S. They
Mhm.
just kind of were tough and lived through stuff and didn't really
Right.
talk about it. You
Right.
know, like the old guy. I mean, you could go in somebody's house and the grandfather, you know, just be this kind of mellow guy, and then you'd realize that, you know, he had done, like, I don't know, taken a German U-boat single-handedly, and he'd just be like, well, you know, it just happened, you know. And I mean, anyway, that's a ridiculous example, but she went through stuff, and I just think that her perspective was just to live in the moment and to look forward rather than back. And I
You
think that the
know,
nature of her life as a performer, you know, lends itself to that, because especially up until now, she's been gigging nonstop for, you know, since the 1950s.
although, you know, I
And
mean, being the subject of a documentary, agreeing to be the subject of a documentary, inherently you're agreeing to look back. I mean, you know, because although, you know, I mean, I don't know about you, when I read biographies,
you
I'm
know,
kind of
well, the funny
interested
thing
in
is, the funny thing is, it was the son that wanted the documentary, and I think she
she
was
was
just
it
like, okay.
placating him.
Well, it wasn't placating. It was just like, okay, so this is what we're doing. You
What do
know, I
you
don't think.
what did she make of it though? You probably were very nervous showing it to her. Or has
I
she
was.
seen it?
She saw it. I wasn't. I mean, it was finished during the pandemic, and I haven't been down to Cuba, and you know, since before the pandemic.
Okay.
And so we sent a link to Ariel, and he did a screening for himself and his mom and some of the family. They all got together.
That's nice.
And so I couldn't be there. Generally, I would have wanted to be there, but apparently she really liked it. Ariel the son was very moved. The family was very moved. And he really was appreciative of I guess the portrait I did of his mom. You know, he felt like it was really, like, it captured her.
So that's good. So that's like the full arc of it. Like he asked you to make it, you made it, you showed it to him, he liked it, he liked the results. That had to feel good.
It was good. Yeah. I mean, he had seen like a rough cut about a year and a half earlier here in New York, like right before the pandemic. We did a little rough cut screening. He was in town.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And so even then he liked the film. And you know, there's some at that. It's interesting. The final version is 70 something minutes, and I think he saw a version that was about 100 minutes. So we really tightened it up. And most of what we lost was performance. I mean, I'm a kind of sucker, like, for slow movies and long performances, and some of the feedback was like, oh, it's too long, you know, the songs go on for too long. But I love those 60 music documentaries that, you know, like the Maisels and Pennebaker did, where you get to see the whole song.
Right.
And today,
well, that's called a concert film.
Well, yeah, but Gimme Shelter is not just a concert film.
Right.
You know?
They mix in backstage.
Yeah. Don't Look Back.
On the tour. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't sound like you were making a on the tour type of documentary, even though I guess inherently there is that.
There's a little bit of that. You know, it's a little bit more than I mean, it's not a concert film, you know, because there's a lot.
No.
But a little bit of the spirit of a concert film, just because I wanted to really show complete performances and not. We actually cut the songs a little bit down, down a little bit.
Yes.
And so in some of the songs we did cut to like other material, but we, for the most part, we really tried to show complete performances and be faithful to the song.
Right.
And part of that was because I knew she wasn't going to tell us a lot about herself, but when she's on stage, she tells us a lot about herself.
Right. That's
And
what we were saying before.
And so the conceit is that like the structure of the film is that the songs function the way that they do in a musical, where at certain times you're talking about certain things, then go into a song.
Yes.
And then it's almost like the song that she sings reflects on what she felt about certain things.
I'm thinking about, of course, she rose to a certain level of, well, let me rethink this question, because she was part of the, as we know, she was part of the Buena Vista Social Club, which was this enormous thing when it blew up in the 90s, right? It was the late 90s or something? Or
this is actually the 25th anniversary year of the album coming out. The album came out in 1997. The Carnegie Hall concert that's in Wim Wenders' film, I believe, happened in 1998. The documentary came out in 1999.
Okay,
so
that's remarkable. It's over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I remember like Ruben Gonzalez, was that his name? Who is the other gentleman that's in the film also?
Compay Segundo, Ibrahim Ferrer.
And why do you suppose, maybe it's a simplistic question, but I think it may even come up in the film, but why do you suppose that she wasn't as recognized as the guys? Like they ended up getting their own albums as an extension of the Buena Vista. I mean, they were widely, obviously Ry Cooder's name was so widely distributed, major labels.
They did release a Buena Vista Omara album. They did.
Okay, they did. Okay.
Yeah, and Ibrahim had 2 albums. Compay Segundo, I can't remember because he passed away.
Right, he was the first one.
Yeah, he's the first one. Ibrahim had 2 albums. Omara had 1 album.
Okay.
Ruben, I think, might have had 1 or 2 albums. As a matter of fact, they just did last year. They in the UK, or actually in the US too, they reissued Omara's Buena Vista album on vinyl. So I've got a nice awesome vinyl. It's really it's a great album.
Mm-hmm.
So why well, the way that the Buena Vista Social Club album came about was in a very serendipitous, accidental way. If you remember in the documentary, Wim Wenders documentary, do you remember it at all? No. So
I saw it when it came out, so it was many years ago.
So Ry Cooder and Nick Gold went to Cuba to record an album, which is going to be a collaboration between Senegalese musicians and Cuban musicians. At the last minute, the Senegalese musicians didn't get visas or something happened and they couldn't travel to Cuba, but they had all the studio time booked, and they had part of the band already, booked. And so Juan de Marcos, who was like the Cuban producer, said, why don't we just find some of these old guys and bring them in and just record some of these old songs. And that's what they did. And so they, brought Ibrahim in, Ruben, Compay. And then the way Omara came in is very serendipitous. She was recording a solo album at the time, and she came in she had to lay a vocal track down. So she came in to record in the downstairs studio. Buena Vista Social Club was being recorded upstairs. And she comes in and they're like, hey, Omara's downstairs. And so they brought her upstairs.
I see.
And I think the way that it went is, all of us, like all the guys in the room were like, oh, Omara has to be part of this. I think what happened was Ibrahim and Omara, as happens, they just, broke out into song. And I think they started to sing Silencio together. And Nick was in the control booth. And he was like, oh my God, like,
magic.
It has to be on the album. So
yeah,
this is, I think, late in the recording. So she's only on 2 of the songs. She's on Silencio with Ibrahim, and she's on 20 Años with Compay Segundo. And then so this was for the first album, and then when that album became a hit, you know, she was included in the concerts in the world tour. So the very first concert Buena Vista Social Club ever did, because if I don't know if you remember this, but Buena Vista Social Club was not a band that ever existed.
Right.
In fact, when they recorded the album, they did not know they were going to call it the Buena Vista Social Club. It was like
branding. It was a branding thing.
It was
Yeah,
like
it's a marketing thing.
And I guess one of the Moncos had told Nick Gold about this music club from the 50s that had been for these black musicians, you know, or for you know because Afro-Cubans couldn't go to the white clubs, so they had their own little clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nick was like, "Oh, that's a great name. Let's call the group that."
It was a great idea. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how she kind of like accidentally wound up in the album, and then wound up becoming kind of one of the. Once it started to go on tour, then everybody knew who she was because she became one of the stars.
Okay. Anyway, you had your world premiere at Doc NYC, I'm guessing?
Correct. Yeah.
Seems like the right place as far as a world premiere or US premiere outside of maybe Santiago. Is there? It looks like you're about to say something.
Well, you know, Doc NYC, you know,
you have a history with.
I have a history with that festival that pre-exists the festival. You know, I mean,
sure. Yeah.
You know, Tom and Rafael I've known for many years, and the production team.
Were you a part? Yeah, I think one of the first times I went to, I know, Stranger Than Fiction, which, what is it called now?
Pure Nonfiction.
Pure Nonfiction. It's been that for about 5 years. But I think you were actually moderating.
For a while, whenever Tom Powers was out of town, I was the Tom Powers sub, you know.
The pitch hitter, as it were.
Yeah, it was and it was great. I mean, I'm a documentary nerd.
Yeah, me too.
Tom would call me up to, you know, ask for a favor, and he'd be like, "Oh, you know, Albert Maysles is gonna screen." We were showing Salesman, I think. Yeah. He's like, "You want to moderate?" It's like, yeah. Or like Frederick Wiseman, you know, Titicut Follies. I got to do that.
Oh my God, really? It wasn't the boxing one?
No, Titicut Follies was the insane asylum.
No, I know that.
Oh.
I'm just thinking that I remember when being in the front row and seeing the boxing club, whatever that, what was it called? Where he shot in a boxing
I haven't seen
gym, that. Boxing gym. Oh, okay. Anyway, so have you had a proper screening in Cuba yet, or is that in the works, or is that
not yet? I mean, it
has a festival.
There's one big festival, the Havana International Film Festival.
That's right.
Okay. One of the oldest in Latin America now. They've got another film festival that happens in the summer. That's Kibara, which is actually outside of my family's hometown in the eastern end of the island.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still figuring out when we'll do a premiere.
And do you have citizenship?
No.
Okay.
I was born here.
Right.
And then I just wasn't. I didn't need to get Cuban citizenship, and it was not something that I necessarily wanted to get. Okay. It's a complicated thing.
Right. But you've been over many times. Is that what I can understand?
I can't even tell you how many times I've been. It's over 50 over the course of 25 years. And prior to the pandemic, for the 5 years prior to that, I was there like 5 times a year.
Right.
You know, so it was like every couple of months, every 2 months, I was down there working on something.
Love to go at some point myself.
Yeah, it's a little complicated right now, like post-pandemic, economic issues, political issues. It's different than it was prior to the pandemic.
Sure.
But whenever you want to go, I've got a travel coordinator based in Havana that I could hook you up with.
Thank you. Filmwax in Cuba. I think that has a ring to it, you know. Anyway, we're talking because any day now, coming right up is the Berkshire's Film Festival. I think it's just the Berkshire's.
Berkshire International Film
It
Festival.
is the internet. Okay, Berkshire's International BIFF, one of many BIFFs out there. And you're gonna have a screening there. Is that the only one you can announce at the moment? That's in June, by the way.
Yeah, there are a couple of others that I know about, but
by mid-May, you think maybe those? Well, you don't know about them, is they haven't confirmed yet.
Which that? No, I know there are a few that I do know about that where we've been invited, but it's I'm not allowed to say. So the next one
yeah, but you might be able to say by the time this posts. You see, that's what I'm getting at. But you know, we can always put something at the end. We can always make a title card.
I don't want to get in trouble with. I'll tell you after. You can stop recording later, and then I'll tell you.
No, I have a 24-hour feed. I just trust me, you don't want to know about that.
I don't want to know about that. That's
the name of this documentary is called Omara, and it's like, you know, many other really super famous people at the top level of fame in there who just need one name. That's all they need. Madonna, you know.
Exactly.
Trump. Sorry to do that. That was nice. But Hugo Perez, two names, but not for long. I think once this documentary comes out, it'll just be Hugo.
I could live with that. Although I could go the other way. I have a middle name.
Oh.
Eugenio. So
Eugenio?
Yeah, so I could go if I was gonna write novels, I would go with the full, you know,
yeah,
Hugo Eugenio Perez. You know, that has a nice ring to it. Hugo was my dad's name. Eugenio was my grandfather's name. So yeah, I'm happy to carry both of those names.
Well, I'm very happy to have had you finally on the show, the podcast. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. No, I've been waiting by the phone for your phone call for many years now, and then
you and countless others. Let me tell you. No. I mean, you know, it's a joy. It's a pleasure to get, and you know, to get behind this documentary is just a pleasure. It's easy. I watched it with my squeeze. She loved it too.
Well, it's really, I tell people when I introduce the film, I say that I dedicate the film to everybody that has been in love or is falling in love.
See, I would have dedicated to all the girls I loved before. That's another Latin singer.
Well, you know, those two.
At the Berkshires International, we'll put the link. They already announced. We're recording this a little early, but by the time we post, tickets I think are now maybe available. I'll double check before I post this, because people can go if you're in the Berkshires, Mid Hudson Valley region, or in maybe Western Mass, Western New England. Go to the Berkshires International Film Festival and catch Omara. Do you know the day? Did they tell you a day and time yet?
It's on Saturday.
Yes.
June. And say so. It's this 1, 2, 3, 4. I think Saturday is June 4th.
And Hugo will sing in lieu of.
You know, it's funny. So Omara one time she asked me if I like to sing. I said, yeah. And she said, well, sing me a song. And so I sang her a song. And she basically said, don't leave your day job.
That wasn't nice. I'm sure you've got a lovely voice.
I'll work on it so that I can sing for you and at the Berkshires screen.
Thank you. I have my guitar right there, so I'll bring it. Wait, 1 minute. Don't go away, because we have to say goodbye. And I just got somebody's buzzing. We're literally just finishing here. She just arrived. She could tell you how much she loves. There's Hugo. You saw his documentary. Anyway, all right, cut back. Is she back there? Anyway, thank you very much. Sorry. We said we would do a duet, but we'll practice. We'll see if it's something there.
Well, hopefully, will I see you at the Berkshire Film Festival?
Maybe? I think so. I mean, there's a couple of festivals that, I can't talk about that, but I'm going to try. I've never been to the Berkshire Film Festival, so I would like to the one thing is lodging. It would be nice to come. Maybe I can cover it. Maybe I can sort of figure out how to, they're putting you up, right?
Yeah, they're putting me up. I don't know where, but
that's more important, of course. Yeah. But we'll see. I don't know what their press presence is typically, but some smaller festivals, or you don't know, but we'll see. We'll figure it out. I mean, I could go there and come back. I mean, it's not that far. It's probably it's an hour or less to Great Barrington from here. So,
well, cool. Yeah, it'd be great to see you.
I know. Yeah. It would really be nice to see you. But I've seen your movie. I'm not going to sit through it again. But I might come to the Q&A.
You could just come and hang out, and it's in the summer. It's going to be beautiful just to sit at the bandstand and have a drink. And
I love it.
We're going to do a little cocktail party after the screening, so you're invited.
Thank you. I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
love it.
Hey, totally different topic. I'm not sure if we're done. But I just got an invite today. I guess the Paris Theater, which is owned by Netflix, is doing a whole Joe Berlinger retrospective.
Oh, well,
and on Saturday, on Saturday they're doing a 30th anniversary screening of Brothers Keeper at the Paris Saturday afternoon.
No, wait a minute, 30?
Yeah.
Can't be. Wait a minute. It was 1992. Two? Is that 30 years? I did the 25th, or what did I do? I showed that at I did a 25th anniversary of that same documentary with Joe, where I hosted it. It was at it's not there anymore. What was the 92nd Street Y Tribeca?
Yes.
Remember that place downtown?
Yeah, that was a cute little place.
I know, I loved it. And I did a number of events there. And I did, one thing I did was we sold it out. Joe was very, pleased, I think. So it's just can't believe it. That must have been 28. Maybe it was 20 years. Because I think it might have been 20.
Yeah, because that place hasn't been around for 10 years. So
right. No, it had to be 20 years. Holy Moses. That's a fantastic.
Anyway, it's just a documentary nerd thing that's happening.
Yeah.
I just got today.
It's an incredible film, and it really opened the door for so much. I mean, amazing. And Bruce Sinofsky, he was still alive, I think, but he was too ill. I did have a number of emails back and forth with Bruce, not knowing how ill he was at the time. I had heard some things, but I didn't know how ill, and he died very shortly. Right, I think right around that time.
Yeah, I met Joe at the Full Frame Documentary Festival back in the 90s. So in 96 or something like that. So I've known Joe for almost 25 years, or about 25 years.
That's incredible.
And then Bruce I met at the Lake Placid Film Forum in 2004.
Wow.
And they were playing, I forget which film they were playing. It might have been one of the Paradise Lost movies.
Paradise Lost, yeah.
And what a great guy. And yeah, and the work that they did together and that Joe has done over the years. I think I hosted Joe, the Chevron documentary that he did.
I don't know if I know that one.
I forget what it's called, but there was a court case where they I think it was Chevron sued him to get his footage, and Joe took it to the Supreme Court and went to the Supreme Court, and he lost. It was a really it was really
Joe lost?
Yeah.
Oof. It's still a good story. Yeah,
Anyway,
we've had a
he's-
number, many things. I mean, he's been on the show a few times. And when is it? When is the
Saturday,
the
on
rest-
Saturday, April 30th at 3
Yeah,
p.m.
I wish I had been more in the know. I got to
Well,
read those.
I think they just decided last minute because I got the invite this afternoon.
Oh,
So
maybe
I'll,
there's time. Maybe I can get Joe, and I don't know if he's, maybe I can get like David. Why am I blanking? David.
I'll forward the invite to you. There's a whole RSVP link, and
Okay.
they're doing a whole retrospective of his work.
Well, I get their newsletter, but I just don't always open it because I'm like, I'm not down there right now. But I should get David and Joe. Maybe I could put something together really fast. I don't know if I have the time, but man, that would have been good.
Well, the Paris is such a great thing. And as theater, it's one of my favorite screens. And it's funny, I have
Really?
favorite
I haven't
screens.
even been in there since it changed over from being the old Paris.
Well, it's still the same.
Okay.
It hasn't changed.
Oh, okay.
It just
Then I love
Netflix
that
owns
theater.
it, but it's the same.
Right.
And so
Same screen, same seats.
Yeah, the Paris, the Walter Reed, MoMA, Titus One. Those are my 3 favorite screens in town.
Well, as bad as it is for theaters, New York still has quite a few art theaters, and you're mentioning your favorite screens, but you can add also Film Forum. I mean, Metrograph.
Well,
really
favorite
has a
theater is probably Film Forum. The screens are
Forum.
not so great, but
I
that
know,
was
yeah.
that was kind of my film school. Was the Film Forum back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I wasn't even living in New York. I would come into New York, and that's where I first saw like Herzog, Errol Morris, Jan Svankmajer, all sorts of like amazing cinema. I still have like a great fondness. I mean, that's a place that I hope will, like Katz's Delicatessen, I hope that both of those places will exist long after the rest of this world is gone.
Without the arteries hardening. Right. Thank you, Hugo. It's been great. Let's do this again. We don't even have to wait. We can just talk about, documentaries. You can come on as my correspondent or something.
I'm a documentary nerd.
Our man in Havana.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd be happy to, get on and talk to you about why I love Ziga Vertov's Man with a Movie Camera so much, or
right. That's a great.
Or we could talk about.
You
John
should. And Michelle. Do you know Michelle Negroponte?
He's teaching at Yale, right? Michelle.
No, I don't.
Oh,
well,
I don't know. I don't know Michelle Negroponte.
I don't think. Okay, you should know him.
I interviewed his. Is it his brother or his cousin that was the Bush administration?
I didn't even know about this, but if we're talking about the same guy, but Michelle.
Yeah. No, I forget. John Negroponte. I interviewed at Yale, and it's funny because Michelle and John are opposite ends of the political spectrum.
That's wild. But Michelle's a friend, and I was just going to say he's also big on Vertov. Vertov. What's his name?
Vertov.
Vertov, of course, Vertov. And the whole that part. I mean, he's a geek about that too. I think the two of you would really. I should do
I'd love to. I'd love it. Another one of my favorites is Jean Rouche's Chronicle of a Summer.
Oh yeah.
Which I've seen many times and I recommend to everybody. And it's amazing that I find it's still so relevant and vital. You could just copy the concept for that film and redo it today and make a great film.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I'd love to do like a documentary nerd hour where we just
we could do that. We could have you and Michelle and then you invite anybody else who went on.
We could each we could pick a few films we're going to talk about and then we watch them and have them fresh. I mean, Chris Marker's Sans Soleil.
Right, of course.
Another one that is
this is exactly well you could bring on oh my gosh, there's so many from the experimental school that would also really appreciate Lynn Sachs. You have so many people that we could get on do that kind of thing. That's a great idea. Now, this will not be Filmwax because I can't possibly do that. No, it would be a Filmwax spin-off. It would be part of the Filmwax what do they call it? Universe or the
expanded universe, the Filmwax expanded universe.
I don't know.
The FEU. That's
It has a
that's
ring
so
to
it's
it.
MEU. That's the technical, yeah, or
Yeah,
DCEU.
exactly.
So it'd be the F or FWEU.
Few, as in few. I watched something else. No, I'm kidding, because this would be great for documentary lovers. But I have a lovely person sitting on my couch, so I really
Yeah,
should.
you got to go. It's really, I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.
Me too.
And I hope to see you. I mean, just in the
In the
hang out in
Berkshires.
the Berkshires.
Yeah, let's
but
do it.
I'm going to forward you the email I got. It was actually Doc NYC sent out the email. So I'll
Yeah,
forward
I
you
got
the
it. I'm
email.
sure I got it. I just been so busy that I just don't look at everything. And in a way, it's maybe to some degree services me, because I overbook and I need to streamline better anyway. I'd rather have you on for like an hour than have on, just anybody for, it just, but I was, during the pandemic, I was really just plugging as much as I could for people, but also I just enjoyed keeping it myself busy, and I really just learned so much. But I gotta streamline it.
I had a lot of friends. I mean, some of them are, like Gregory Crutzen, the photographer.
Well, he's, we went to summer camp together.
I took his class at Yale when I was an undergrad right in 1993, right before he became kind of famous.
Yeah, large scale photo, like theatrical, cinematic kind of photos that he would do.
But he did a thing with Yale Art School where he was doing talks during the pandemic 2 or 3 times a week with amazing. I mean, he can get anybody, and he had like the most amazing. You should look up the YouTube channel for those conversations, because there's just, like, crazy.
Greg, again, we were kids in the 70s, and it was in Wallkill, New York. We went to camp together. But when Ben, what's his name? Not Feldman. What was his name? The filmmaker did a documentary about Greg.
Yep.
So I had Greg, and that was when I just started the podcast. They came out to Brooklyn and they did the show, and I hadn't seen Greg since we were kids.
Well, he lives in the Berkshires and shoots in the Berkshires. And when I was living in the Berkshires, I got to be on set 2 or 3 times and have a little bit of footage they shot. I sort of wanted to make a documentary about him, but I think at the time he wasn't that interested. Yeah, but he's a big inspiration to me. And it's funny that 30 years after I took his class, I feel like I finally understand it. Yet the notion,
Wow.
the class was constructed reality. And as somebody who has worked in storytelling and to like craft narratives, it's something that, especially in like the last 10 years or so, I think a lot about the construction and how the line between fiction and nonfiction is really, there's no line. And yeah, he was a big inspiration. So I'm going to invite him to the screening in the Berkshires, because he lives like 15 minutes out of
I didn't realize that. I thought he was okay. Well, and mention we talked, or maybe I'll put this up and you could share the link, because I'm sure, we were talking, we have kids the same age too, I think. But anyway, we were talking about one point trying to get together, but of course, a lot of great gestures are, shared. And then,
well, he lives in it's forget the name of the town that's right next to it. It's not Stockbridge, but it's I'm totally spacing on my Berkshire geography.
Egremont or Lee?
No, it's a little east.
Lenox. I don't know. Anyway,
Anyway, but it's like one town, 1 or 2 towns over from Great Barrington.
Oh yeah, definitely invite him.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, go and see your person, and I'll see you in person. Hopefully, it's something or other.
I'd like that. I'll see you in June.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right.
Adios, my friend.
Adios, amigo. And I'll be in touch on, with details of the posting of this stuff.
All right.